state the assurance that the minister gave to us that we will not need a wet weather alternative for IATF 2027 that will take place in Lagos.
As Nigeria braces up to host the 5th edition of the Intra-Africa Trade Fair event, Africa's premier marketplace platform, a signing ceremony was hosted at the Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and Creative Arts in Igamu, Lagos. It brought together government dignitaries, regional leaders, elder statesmen, business leaders, and industry leaders to witness a historic event for Nigeria and Africa. In his opening remarks, the chairman of the IATF 2027 Advisory Council and former president of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, described the event hosting as a milestone for Nigeria and Africa's regional development.
I wish to reaffirm the commitment of the IATF 2027 Advisory Council, of which I am the chairman, in collaboration with our partners and the House and the host country, Nigeria, to orchestrate an exceptionally successful 5th edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair here in Lagos, Nigeria. It is imperative that through the IATF, we endeavor to elevate our standards and achievements as we advance towards realizing our developmental aspirations as outlined in the African Union's Agenda 2053, the Africa we want, and in achieving the objective of fostering continental integration within a unified marketplace presented by the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. We have to work hard to keep moving towards the Africa we want. IATF is one of the instruments we must use to achieve the desirable objective. In light of Nigeria's demonstrated enthusiasm for hosting IATF 2027, and we saw a little bit of that enthusiasm today during our meeting. I extend my profound optimism for the forthcoming continental event of global significance, and I am confident that IATF 2027 will surpass all previous editions in both scope and impact. But let me say this. On 2 occasions in the past, we were not prepared for wet weather alternative. And at the 11th hour, we had to scramble for hosting community. I believe that we should include wet weather alternative in our plan for this meeting. But again, let me state the assurance that the minister gave to us that we will not need a wet weather alternative for IATF 2027 that will take place in Lagos.
It featured remarks from the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and the Africa Union Center for Economic Development and Trade.
Lagos, as one of Africa's most dynamic commercial and financial centers, provides an ideal environment for an event of this scale and importance. We are confident that Nigeria will host a successful and impactful trade fair that reflects the ambition of the AfCFTA and the aspirations of African businesses. So as we sign this hosting agreement today, we also begin an important work, which is the preparation of IATF 2027. Our ambition should be to ensure that the trade fair expands participation from African enterprises, strengthens connections across African markets, and catalyzes meaningful trade and investment partnerships. Ultimately, the success of the AfCFTA will be measured by the extent to which African businesses trade more with one another and create jobs and prosperity for our people. Allow me once again congratulate the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for their commitment to hosting the Intra-Africa Trade Fair 2027. The AfCFTA Secretariat looks forward to working closely with all partners to ensure the success of this important event. Together, we will continue to advance our shared vision of an integrated, industrialized, and prosperous Africa.
A lot still needs to be done, as exemplified by the current low level of intra-African trade discussed at the beginning of my statement. We should therefore aim very high in 2027, especially as EITF takes place in Nigeria, the most populated African country, which ranks amongst the top 3 African largest economies, and is home to many of the African billionaires, high net worth individuals, innovators, musicians, startups, and so on. We at the African Union Commission reaffirm our unwavering commitment to work in a collaborative manner with all the members of the Advisory Council to make the EITF 2027 an event that will ignite a new momentum for Africa's investment, industrialization, and trade with herself in the context of the AfCFTA and the rest of the world. More specifically, we will enhance our African Union Youth Startup Pavilion, a major vertical of IATF, and strengthen the participation of African women in processing. Through the IATF, we are building the Africa we want. Let us mark IATF 2027 a defining moment in this journey. I wish all of us a successful meeting signature ceremony, and we wish a lot of luck and success to the AfCFTA 2027.
The President and Chairman, Board of Directors, Afreximbank, Dr. George Elombi, lauded Nigeria for taking up the mantle to host the IATF event and shared their expectations.
This gives a unique stature to Lagos and to the country. This is a country of resolute capitalists, of people who are entrepreneurial to the core. They are driven by the passion for success. A country whose people have carried Africa's trade and carried Africa's culture and Africa's innovation and Africa's dynamism across global borders. A country whom I know from my own personal experience, whose citizens have made Africa's cause theirs. Our plea to you, therefore, Mr. Governor, is to ensure that all your peers, your brothers, the governors of all the 36 states, that the men and women, producers and traders, entrepreneurs from all 36 states, from those places in Nigeria which have become famous across Africa for their pioneering efforts in trade. Those from Alaba, just not too far here in Lagos itself, those from Kano and Abar, and those from Onitsha and Newe in the east of Nigeria, to make the IATF 2027 a resounding success for Lagos, for Nigeria, and for the dignity of the African.
Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, in her remarks assured stakeholders of Nigeria's commitment to hosting a transformative Intra-Africa Trade Fair event in 2027.
As we approach the golden jubilee of FESTAC 77 in 2027, the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization has launched its countdown initiative, Road to FESTAC 77 at 50, and the managing director is here as well. This important initiative seeks to reignite the spirit of Pan-African unity, creativity, and cultural resilience that redefined that historical gathering half a century ago. This endeavor not only celebrates our shared heritage, but also aligns seamlessly with the Creative Art Africa Nexus, CANEX, empowering African artists and entrepreneurs to harness their talents for global markets, while bolstering the Intra-African Trade Fair by fostering intercontinental trade with cultural goods and services, driving economic growth, job creation, and sustainable development across our beloved continent. Let us march together on this road to a brighter, more prosperous Africa. So today, let us be reminded and let us count this moment as the moment we united in purpose once again in Lagos, Nigeria, as a continent of shared ambition, collective resolve, determined to align our markets, our industries, and our talent for lasting impact. Together, we will power and deliver the future we want.
The assurance was reinforced by the Governor of Lagos State, His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu.
We're doing knowing fully well that it is a time for Africa to take its rightful place in the global stage. And if we're indeed serious about that, the likes of what Afreximbank and what the EU and African Commission have built for us, the minimum we can do as the government is to continue to validate that. And so I want to assure you that the CANEX event coming up in Lagos later in the year will be a masterpiece. It will be one of the biggest that you have seen, because you know that Lagos is not just a commercial economic nerve center of our country. It's the entertainment capital of Africa, and we will bring it to the fullness of it. You will see a CANEX that you've never seen before, and we will be true with our promise. And come the big one, IATF 2027, we will ensure that not only do we put our best foot forward, we will not disappoint all of you. Baba, you'll be alive and strong. We will not disappoint you.
Highlight of the forum was the formal signing ceremony signaling Nigeria's readiness to host the 5th Intra-Africa Trade Fair in Lagos. It also featured an additional briefing session with the media on the trajectory of the IATF 2027 and the growth of intra-African trade.
IATF 2027 must therefore move us from conversation to execution. We should see stronger industrial partnership, deeper regional value chains, more trade finance linkages, and more African businesses finding real commercial opportunities beyond their national borders. What should distinguish Lagos is its ability to connect market size with continental ambition.
The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, speaks further on the IATF 2027 event and the preceding CANEX weekend event scheduled for fourth quarter of 2026.
The Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is the anchor ministry for this intervention. We're expecting to host over 100,000 physical and virtual guests. We're expecting to have deals of over $50 billion worth of deals from IATF 2027. We're expecting to make sure that the global Africa, IATF has made connections with the Caribbean, has made connection with diaspora. So when we're looking at the renaissance of FESTAC and looking at what Nigeria has done in terms of leading the Black race, frankly, in economic terms, that's where we're positioning. The IATF is symbolic of the manifestation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is what actually underpins this free market. You have members of the ministry, you have the ED of the Export Promotion Council, the Trade Fair, the Tafawa Balewa, all the spaces, FMITI family, Nexim was here earlier as well. We're poised to deliver the work. You saw that we launched our industrial policy earlier this year. You saw that in December, we launched our intellectual property policy. So there's been a lot of work that FMITI has done. We ratified the first country to do so. The Digital Trade Protocol, of course, we're digital trade champions of African Continental Free Trade Area Digital Trade Protocol. And so there's been a lot put in place. But just to conclude by saying that the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when you look at item number 7 and the mandate that Mr. President has given us, is to implement the industrialization to enable the connectivity. So we're talking about investment mobilization deals. We're talking about the trade policy that we've worked on and using that to cascade in industrialization, not just for Nigeria, but for Africa at large, both in goods and particularly in services where our young people are competitive.
With over $100 billion worth of trade and investment activities consummated in the last 4 editions of the Intra-Africa Trade Fair, there are huge expectations that the 5th edition scheduled for Lagos, Nigeria, the launchpad of Africa's economic integration, will achieve over $50 billion in intra-African trade deals and unlock new opportunities that accelerate industrialization through manufacturing, processing, technology, and the creative industry, amongst others.